So somebody sent me this video, and I thought it was kind of interesting, at least interesting enough that maybe I should post my response to it because I think a lot of people are watching these type of videos and they're really frustrating. Um, but as somebody who is an executive and who has been an executive is in high tech for many years, and I've hired and fired many people. I'm not. I think a lot of these videos are just they're doing damage and they're not really helping. So let's go over it, and I'll tell you what I think she's getting wrong and what I think she might be getting right. So
I got laid off today after 10 years.
I told you guys I was let go today after 20 years.
Today, I was laid off at Amazon.
And then I went to Amazon and I worked my literal ass off.
I keep getting job offers that are extremely lowered wages due to them knowing people are desperate.
I got laid off in May. It is now the end of October. Well, look at all these open tabs. The job hunt right now, you guys. If you got a job, just keep it, okay?
Amazon recently announced their largest
so I want to start with one thing. Do not, and I mean, I seriously, please, if you can take one thing out of this video, do not post these type of videos on social media because what you're doing here is you are advertising to the whole world that you got laid off, and now that you are complaining about the company you worked for, and it's not a good signal because you don't think about it at the moment you're posting this on social media, but somebody who might want to hire you later will find this. I mean, this video probably is going to get, I don't know, 100,000, 200, I don't know, maybe a million views. And your face is going to be on that video for years telling people that you got laid off. I mean, don't do it. What's the advantage? Seriously, what is the advantage of posting on social media that you were laid off? None. None other than, I don't know, getting some comments from friends and family. I just don't get it. And when I see people that will post on LinkedIn sometime, I applied to 900 jobs and I had 100 interviews and I still didn't find a job. I'm like, what are you doing? You're just telling anybody who might want to hire you that you went through 100 interviews and didn't pass them. That's not a good thing to say. I mean, I know it's frustrating. I get it. Just don't. I get there's no advantage in doing that other than maybe feeling better for, I don't know, a day.
corporate layoff, cutting 14,000 employees, with executives hoping to eliminate 600,000 workers by 2033. When Amazon, the US's second largest employer, starts laying off employees, it gives cover to other CEOs. UPS announced 48,000 layoffs. YouTube is offering its employees voluntary exit packages. Chegg announced it was cutting 45% of its workforce. Target cut roughly 1,800 employees. GM cut roughly 1,700 employees. Meta, Rivian, Ford, the list goes on. And this is just for the month of October. It doesn't even cover the layoffs we've been experiencing throughout the year. But there's one.
All right, so again, I got to jump in because Vanessa, this is just not how layoffs work, especially not in big corporations. When you have layoffs in big corporations, and I can tell you because I was part of those unfortunate events, it takes months, seriously, of meetings after meetings and conversations to the point that sometimes the company won't even work because everybody knows there's going to be a layoff. So it's not that some CEO read that Amazon is laying off people and then woke up and said, oh, well, I want to lay off people too. And then the week after they announced that they're going to lay off. It just doesn't work like that, especially not in big corporation. These things, like it or not, go through a lot of consideration. And again, I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I don't know, but I can tell you for sure, this is not done in callous. People take a lot of time thinking about laying people off, and it's a very serious set of considerations. So this is not just because if Amazon is firing, everybody else can fire. It's just not related to each other. It might be related to the same set of economical, political decisions, environment, yes, but it's not like the CEO of Amazon does something and then the CEO of UPS decides to let go of people. Just doesn't work that way.
One layoff I want to highlight, Paramount. If you watched my previous video, I mentioned how David Ellison, son of tech billionaire Larry Ellison, had purchased Paramount, further growing his media empire. Despite this open letter David sent to Paramount employees after taking over the company, claiming, "You are the heart of this company," Paramount cut 1,000 employees, with that number expected to be 2,000 in coming weeks.
If companies like Google and Amazon and Meta are making billions, why are they laying people off?
Oh, that's easy. Greed. These billionaires don't care about us. They only...
Oh, okay. Again, That might be the case. I mean, maybe billionaires don't care about us. And again, I'm not here to defend billionaires in any way or form, but it's not just black and white. And this is what I think is very damaging with a lot of these videos, because it makes you feel, if you were laid off or if you're just watching these, that a lot of these decisions are just made in some kind of dark room with some evil people, just sitting there and deciding we're going to let go of people. I'm not saying that sometimes their decisions are not misguided, but it's just not sitting there and deciding to cut people because that's going to benefit their own pocket. You have to understand, somebody like Elon Musk or somebody like Larry Ellison and their family, and again, I'm not defending them, but they're so rich. They are so rich. This is not going to make them richer. Firing you is not going to make them richer. The reason they're firing people, or the organization decides to fire people, 100% could be a financial decision, and usually is a financial decision. 100%. There's no doubt. It's because they can, and they feel that this is something that they're ready to do. But it's not because letting go of people immediately is going to make them richer. And the way they think about it, at least the people that I met, is not at this level. It's just not.
Only care about showing growth to Wall Street every 3 months. Remember when property developer Tim Gurner said that unemployment needed to rise 40-50% to put us workers back in our place?
And we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. There's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them. It's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment.
What isn't discussed enough is the shadow layoff.
Well, that's disgusting. Okay, that is very disgusting. I mean, first of all, that person is such an idiot to say something like that. Even if he thinks it, but it's just disgusting that he thinks it to begin with. No. If you think that by punishing people, that's how you're going to get better employees, that's I don't. Again, it's just financially and economically stupid. But even worse, this is at day's end, any business you run is based on the people. Because this guy, he's not running his businesses. He has thousands of people that run the businesses for him. And I'm not saying he's not involved. But if you don't respect the people that are part of your business, and if you think that you need to punish them in order for them to understand their place in the economy, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot. Yes, it just 100%. Because what you're going to find out is that you can't run your business without people wanting to work for you. You just can't. You just can't.
Off system. More companies are hiring part-time and contract workers as a means to cut costs. This means for the workers, no retirement plans, no healthcare benefits, and no severance package.
That is true. That I agree with her. I've seen companies that specifically decide not to give you health benefit and to hire people as contractors just not to pay the health benefits. Now, again, to be the devil's advocate, the cost of health benefits in the U.S. is astronomical. It's just crazy. For a company, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars for an employee. But when you have the money, and a lot of these companies have the money, to me, my personal philosophy is you have to pay. You have to pay the health insurance. And the whole having people work as contractors, I agree with her here. This is just, that is very, very unethical in my point of view.
The WARN Act doesn't require corporations in every state to report part-time or contract workers as part of their layoffs. This is why the layoff numbers might seem low, but if we account for all employment type, we've actually seen 13.8 million layoffs from January to August of this.
Okay, yeah. I don't buy that number. Okay, that's the problem sometimes with these numbers, is that you can inflate them or deflate them in a million different ways, but that seems to me crazy higher than the real number.
This year, laying off contractors or conducting performance-based exits doesn't make headlines, but accounts for up to 30% of this year's job losses. Amazon claims that they're laying off employees in an effort to operate like the world's largest startup. They claim they need to increase their efficiency. Yet in 2024, they generated $638 billion. It seems they're operating at pretty high efficiency.
But again, that's a really weird point to say. You're saying because they're making money, they shouldn't be more efficient? This is where, again, I find these videos to be misleading, because what do you expect these companies to do? If they feel that they have people who are not contributing, people that are not doing their job that the company feels that they should they not fire them? Or do you think that we should have laws that force companies to hire people because there's some kind of a quota? Again, if you're for this, against it, I don't know. I don't have the internal, I wasn't in the meetings with Amazon, but I just don't see the connection between the fact that they're making money to the fact that they cannot lay off people. What if the 10,000 people that they laid off are all assholes, horrible people who are at the bottom of the performance? The company has to keep them for some what? Because I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, I'm not for laying off people for no good reason, but on the other hand, companies need to have the ability to run their businesses in the most productive and efficient way, and it has nothing to do if they're making money or not. You want to have a conversation, should their CEO make X amount of money? Maybe, but the decision to keep people, I don't see how it's directly connected to how much money they're making.
While most headlines are focused on AI, Amazon has been building an army of robots. A leaked internal document shows executives hoping they can eliminate 600,000 roles by using robots. And they know how bad this sounds. That's why also in the document, they discussed replacing words like automation, AI, and robot with the term advanced technology. But here's the dystopian reality. Back in June, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy addressed all the employees about AI and automation. We have strong conviction that AI agents will change how we work. There will be billions of these agents. We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today. The keyword here is will. He's not saying AI
Again, I see where he's coming from. There's a new technology called AI. He thinks it might help. He thinks it might be able to augment and change a lot of the positions. But I don't see a problem with that, because I feel like this is something we've seen many, many times in our industry. New technologies come in and they make some of us obsolete and some of us become more relevant. And that's just a cycle. That's just a cycle. When I started working, people were still writing code in COBOL. And I can tell you, I worked for a company, and we had this person who wrote code in COBOL, and a lot of the banking applications we worked with, unfortunately, were written in COBOL. And this person was the only person that we knew that wrote COBOL, and he made shitloads of money, okay? But he was the last COBOL, right? And those systems were just so old that we had to pay him. But the industry moved forward, and eventually this person became irrelevant. And I just don't understand why there's so much fear from the fact that there's new technologies coming in, and some of us have to adapt, and some of us will, and some of us won't adapt. But I just don't see how this is related to the fact that they decided to fire so many people, because to me, AI is just not there yet for them to take such a big risk if the people they let go were crucial to the business.
agents are currently good enough to replace human workers. He's saying they will be, maybe in the future.
Probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have.
Yeah. If you do that, Mark, not that you'll ever listen to me, you're going to make a huge mistake. AI is nowhere near close to replace humans when it comes to coding. And I'm not going to go into it in this video, but you can watch tons of videos that explain. I'm not saying it's not an amazing tool. I'm not saying it's not revolutionary. It is, but it's just not there. It makes way too many mistakes. For a demo, yes. For a proof of concept, 100%. For production code, you just want to give it 100% to AI and then hope for the best. Wow, you got to be crazy.
At your company that can write code. And then over time, we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps, including the AI that we generate, is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers.
Again, the key words here, I think probably these are just hopes. They're laying off real human workers today, despite recognizing that AI cannot do a mid-level engineer's job. But they're hoping one day it can. They're redirecting.
Yeah, I agree with her here. I agree. This whole AI hype to me is just, it's a hype. Again, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it's not amazing, but as somebody who managed millions of lines of code in my career, that's just not how code gets built. The problem with code is not building the first version. That's never the problem. That's never the problem. Oh, it's never the biggest problem. It's maintaining it. It's the customer that gets you on the phone and wants a new feature. It's the fact that the market changes every freaking 5 minutes. It's all the bugs that you never found on QA and now you're finding them in production. That's the time it takes to release a product. It's not actually when it's a clean slate and you can just start from, wow, those are the fun times. That's the easy part. That's when you're just pushing code. But it's try to deal with some fintech application that's been running in a bank for like 30 years. Now you tell me how easy it is to be replaced with AI.
Directing the money they use to pay real human workers into AI investments. They're betting on a future that hasn't even arrived yet. They could afford both employees and AI, but instead they're laying off workers right before the holidays after record profits while the CEOs get richer from the very act of firing them.
No, again, this is why these videos are so frustrating because when you say something like this, you're kind of making it sound like, again, there's a bunch of evil people sitting in a room deciding to lay off people. I'm telling you, there's so much thought that goes into it. So many meetings, so many decisions. People, I'm not saying any. Okay, I'm sure there are some assholes that do it nilly-willy. I don't know, like all those stories about Elon Musk. But I can tell you, in all the places that I work for and places that I know of, this is just not how these things go. It's just not. It's not. And I'm not saying it makes it easier. I'm not saying it makes it something that is fun to go through, but it's just not true that they're sitting there and they're like, okay, can you just fire 15,000 people so I can make a little bit more money? These people are so rich and they make money from they're not going to make money from saving on your salary. It's just not how it goes. They're thinking a much, much bigger game. And either way, they're not the ones that manage these layoffs. Okay, it's a bunch of other people. And when you say the bunch of people, you're talking about people like me who get the decision, and someone like me, would have to go over the list of names, would have to decide who stays, would have to go through performance review. There's so much work that I would have to go through when we're doing a layoff. And I can tell you that people like me and people that I've worked with and people that I know, none of us look at it lightly and just say, oh, okay, we're just going to fire Vanessa because, we're going to get a bonus this year. It's just not true.
Because for these executives, layoffs are a means to cut costs. And who costs the most? Senior employees. A perfect example of this that we saw earlier this year was when Microsoft let go of Ron Buckton. Now, if you're not a developer, you may not know who he is, but Ron spent 18 years at Microsoft. 10 of those years was spent working on TypeScript. TypeScript is used by over 5 million developers. I use TypeScript. The majority of the websites that you interact with use TypeScript. And despite Microsoft having over $245 billion in revenue for 2024, they still let Ron go.
What? Okay, first of all, you have no clue why this person was let go. I can guarantee you, even though I was not there, it wasn't because of his salary. Because you just explained how much money Microsoft makes. You understand, you just said so, that they have the money to pay him, and that he obviously is a key person in a very important technology. If he was laid off, I guarantee you, it wasn't because somebody was like, let's save on some, let's save on $100,000. Because, again, it doesn't work like that. Because when they fire him, they just fire him because they want to save money, but they still need the position. Let's assume they still need the position that he's holding. They're going to have to hire someone else. Now, imagine how difficult it is going to be to hire someone at his level, somebody who created TypeScript. I think they're going to find somebody for much cheaper. 100% no. Now, let's say they hire this person. You know how long it's going to take this person to learn and understand Microsoft and understand how the system works? No. That's just not how it works. If he was laid off, it was because of years, months of conversations, of decisions. Maybe he's doing something that he wasn't supposed to do. Maybe he's not showing up to the office anymore. Maybe he's just not effective anymore. Maybe they don't feel like they have work for him, or that his position is needed. I guarantee you the decision isn't just, oh, wait, Let's look at open the Excel sheet. Oh, Ron, he's been here for 18 years. Oh, he's making a little bit too much money. Let's let him go. Again, just doesn't work this way.
Is Ron suddenly discovered to be a slacker after 18 years of promotions? Or is it that executives looked at a spreadsheet, saw his senior level salary, and decided that number was too big? And at the same time,
Yeah, I'm telling you. No. The whole spreadsheet we just look at and we make a decision. That's not how how it goes. Now, your salary 100% is part of the decision. Why? Because if I'm told that I need to cut in my department, and I have, so first of all, the top performers, I'm not touching the top performers. 100%. I'm not touching the top performers because the 80-20 rule applies. I know that the top 20% of my people are doing 80% of the work. I know that. So I'm not touching them. So if we're talking about layoffs, I'm only talking at people at the bottom of the list. So now when we're getting to the bottom of the list, and remember, when hiring managers, executives, people like me, we want to keep the team. We do not want to fire people. So I'll try to save as many as I can. Okay? But if I have two people, one of them is making $100,000 more than the other, and they're both low performers, yes, at that point, yeah, I'm gonna let go of the person that makes more money because that's gonna allow me to meet the demands that I'm having from the higher ups without letting go of as many people. But the first thing is that this person is a low performer because I'm not touching the high performers.
time they're laying off senior workers, they're also eliminating junior positions. Between January and October of 2024, the unemployment rate for recent college graduates was 15.3% in their first year after graduation. This shows recent graduates are staying unemployed for longer and they're applying to roles outside of their degrees just to land their first position. And it's not looking any better in other countries.
Again, wow, I guess I do have a lot to say about this video. The fact that people out of college are not finding work is because it's just a shitty economy. That's the fact. It's just shitty. It's a shitty time to look for work. But everybody's forgetting that 4 years ago, people out of college would be, I know, because I hired them. We would snap them. We would just grab them straight out of college and give them $150,000 for their first job, and they would have demands. These babies would have demands, but we understood, and it was okay. It was okay. Things were good. We were up. We were running. Everybody, we were flush with money. We were told to hire, and I'm happy. I was happy that to see young people make good money. But in our industry, unfortunately, things turn around. It's not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time that this has happened. And when the times are not good, when the times are bad, oh my God, it's a shitstorm. But come on, you can't forget how it was literally a couple of years ago when people were just doing some online coding course and immediately making $100,000. So you got to balance it. So yes, now it's a shitty time. It's a shitty time.
There are many graduates now that are coming out of universities, which means that there are more people that are graduating necessarily for the jobs that are there. I saw a rather shocking statistic in the UK earlier this week that was talking about the fact that last year there were 1.2 million graduates for 17,000 jobs, which starts to give you the idea of just how competitive that market has become. And on top of that, with AI, many of those graduate jobs are changing or are more difficult for people to get into.
Vercel used its best salesperson to train an AI agent, allowing the company to reduce a 10-person team's work down to just one person managing the AI agent. As a
Okay, again. So somebody wrote on a blog, but do you really know? Is it true? Did you really go check it? Do you really think that they can replace 10 people with one person and an agent? There's a big difference between reading about AI and actually working with it and trying to implement it in your organization to the point where you feel comfortable enough to make a decision of, okay, I'm actually going to lay off people and I'm going to trust this, I won't say half-baked, okay, but definitely not fully baked technology based on some podcasts where I hear Sam Altman talking about how amazing we are and Mark Zuckerberg telling me that they're going to reach AGI in 2025. Hell no.
Developer, I also see this. A lot of companies are now using AI agents to do the smaller Jira tickets that usually a junior developer would do. But this means that they're effectively eliminating junior positions.
No, Vanessa, no. It's, yes, The fact that AI can eliminate some of those tedious, stupid Jira tickets, that's great. But juniors are never hired for their productivity. When we hire them, we know that they are not going to be amazing at what they're doing. It's in the title. It's junior developer. We're just asking them to do other stuff. You hire juniors not because you think they're going to be amazing. I'm telling you, again, this is the honest truth. I've never hired a junior with the expectation that they're going to come in and be super productive. I understand that I am going to pay them money. And actually, not only will they not be very effective, they might damage the system. You hire juniors in your organization is because you need to build the future of the organization. Because all those seniors that you're talking about, all those mid-levels, eventually they don't want to do that job. They don't. They want to move ahead in their career. They want to try different stuff, which makes sense. So what am I going to do? I'm going to force them to stay? I can't. So I need to constantly build the next generation of people. And the way to do it is through hiring juniors. But the other thing that people don't understand, we hire juniors because they bring new ideas, new ways of doing things into the organization. If you just say, okay, no, I'm never hiring juniors, and then you end up with people that are 30, 40, 50 years old, those people very quickly are going to become irrelevant in terms of how the market works. What are the latest technologies? You need to have fresh blood. So no, people don't hire juniors because they think they're going to be productive. But yes, today when you hire a junior, you expect them to know how to use AI.
While at the same time, we have fewer senior employees because their salaries make them layoff targets. More seniors and retirees are returning to the workforce because they can't afford the cost of living on their retirement funds or their Social Security. In fact, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, people aged 50 and older are the fastest growing group of those experiencing homelessness, with that number expected to double by 2030.
Well, that's just sad. And that's very sad. And that's one of the biggest problems in the US, where there's no social net to protect you. Again, I don't see the relevancy to this particular video, but yeah, that's sad. I agree. 100%. I agree.
This is my tent. There's my kitchen. Yes, I am out in the woods. But here's a little secret. I got plenty of privacy.
Because despite paying into Social Security with every paycheck, that money isn't being saved for you. It's being used to pay for current retirees, and it's also not keeping up with the cost of living. The average monthly payment for retirees is $2,002. I'm not currently in the US, but even here in Stockholm, that wouldn't cover my rent. But regardless, the US government is considering increasing the retirement age to 69, despite many workers claiming that employers are deeming them too experienced. A nice way for these companies to say that they don't want to hire you after 40. And actually, Workday, that horrible job application software, they're being sued with applicants alleging the company's AI disqualified them because they were over 40.
So I made a post about over a month ago talking about how I was laid off at 50, being at the peak of my career, and thousands of you replied saying you're going through the same thing. They say you're too overqualified. Again, you're not going to be happy here. I even had someone make a comment saying that they went to Trader Joe's to try to get a job and they were denied because they are overqualified.
It's 2025, and the new reality is that people in their mid-50s, late 50s are the new unemployables. It's almost impossible to land another job at your current level. You can almost...
All right, so that's a really tricky topic, because it is true. Again, in high tech, I can't talk about any other position. But if you are like, late 40s, 50s, there are some positions that are going to become kind of difficult for you to find. And good or bad, I don't know. I can't speak to if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because I actually find that older people sometimes bring an experience that is really, really valuable. But on the other hand, I understand that if you have a development team and everybody's like, in their 20s and they have their social life, and then you're the 50-year-old developer, it's not good. It's not good for the team. The team, you'll find, you literally could be their parent, and they don't like it. And when you are managing engineering teams, you have to be mindful about their social structure, their age range, of course. So at some point, you become too old for the position. And it's not because you're not talented. It's not because you're not amazing. It's because the structure of the team is such that it's a little bit more difficult to bring someone with so much experience, both in life experience but also work experience, into this level of a team. So what happens is that a lot of times when you're older, you really need to either have a really strong niche, like something like I said at the beginning of this video about the guy that when I started my career who knew COBOL, and yeah, I think he was like in his 50s, I don't remember. But yeah, you're niche. You're like, yeah, I'm old, but I've done this for 30 years and I know something very specific that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. And then obviously you're always going to find a job. Not always, until that specific niche disappears, or not, I don't know. But management, yeah, because you'll find that when it comes to management, I've noticed that a lot of companies now, they do want that. They do want it because they're like, okay, I want the older person that has the experience. But not every person built leadership or even has the management or leadership skills to offer that. So then what you're offering is a very technical skill, yeah, unfortunately, this is not a good industry to grow old at. It's not. And again, to be honest, it never was. It never was. This is not something new. When I was in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, I don't remember ever this industry not being an ageist industry. You know,
Let's kiss it goodbye. They can say ageism is illegal all they want. They can make believe that it's kumbaya and we love everybody and we're all equal. No, it doesn't work like that.
If that's the case, how exactly are we supposed to work until we're 70 if these companies stop hiring people around the age of 40? And more graduates are now switching to trade jobs, meaning that blue-collar workers are now competing against white-collar workers for the same handful of trade jobs. We've seen at least 180,000 government employees let go, and now we see senior FANG employees re-entering the job market after layoffs.
I'm a recent college grad looking for a job, and today I learned that not only are we competing with all of the people last year who couldn't get jobs, we are also competing with people who are currently working in entry-level jobs and looking to switch companies because their companies aren't promoting them because the market is so bad. A recruiter I just got off the phone with told me that I'm going up against someone who has 2 years of postgraduate full-time work experience, and I just don't know how I'm supposed to compete with that.
So let me get this straight. We have retirees, new graduates, blue-collar and white-collar, government employees, senior FANG employees, all fighting over a dwindling number of jobs. And at the same time that everyone's trying to find a job, inflation is out of control. The cost of living the past 5 years just keeps increasing.
I want to see if anybody else.
But, yeah, it's because the market is shitty. It's because there are no jobs. Again, you're forgetting that a couple of years ago, we were flush. There was tons of jobs. I mean, in high-tech industry, we were begging for people. We were grabbing people from the streets, okay? But in our industry, unfortunately, it's boom or bust. That's how it goes. I've never seen it just be, kind of middle, kind of just normal. It's either they're hiring nonstop or they're firing. Nothing new.
This is experiencing this. So last year, my homeowner's insurance for the year was $3,018. Year before that, it was $2,600. Year before that, $2,200. Year before that, $2,100. I'm on this house for 4 years. This year, my homeowner's insurance is over $6,000. No claims in the last 4 years. I've never had a claim against the house I'm living in now. But my insurance just doubled. Homeowner's insurance doubled year over year with no claims.
Yet wages aren't.
Yeah, we're having this situation here in Texas because there's so many natural disasters, so many hailstorms. I mean, now in Texas, we have floods, we have snow, we have hail, anything, heat, anything you can think about here in Texas, we have it. So yeah, home insurances are crazy. And I don't know what to tell you because I've been shopping around and it's really hard to find good deals. So yeah, I agree with this guy.
Aren't keeping up with the cost of living, despite us seeing both Apple and Microsoft hit a $4 trillion valuation. And meanwhile, our representatives are telling us that inflation is only 3%, yet they're not explaining the bigger picture. Inflation may be 3% this year, but what was it last year and the year before? They're not adding on all the prior years because the reality is inflation rarely decreases. And in fact, it benefits the governments to have inflation because it means they owe less debt. And about that inflation, a lot of it is artificially created. Tyson and other corporations conspired to create an artificial pork shortage so that they could increase the prices of pork from 2009 to 2018. When they were caught, they paid just $85 million. That's nothing compared to the $20 billion pork industry.
Yeah. I mean, I really wish that the government would really punish those companies. I mean, if it's true, right? If I don't have enough information about this case, but I'm assuming what she's reading is correct. But those companies that are getting caught price gauging, oh my goodness, I really wish the government would punish them because it doesn't make sense to give them like $1 million, a couple $1 million fine when they make billions in profits by doing it. And this is just illegal.
Industry. In earnings calls, the CEO has bragged about passing on inflation to consumers. Keep in mind, the same CEO that was caught creating artificial inflation.
Like many other companies, we were faced with a range of higher levels of inflation. Our teams have worked together with our customers to pass along that inflation through price increases.
We will remain disciplined and agile in our pricing initiatives to ensure that any additional inflationary pressures are passed along to customers.
We'd like to think that we have relationships with customers that allow us to be able to take to them inflation that we see in the marketplace and be able to pass that on ultimately to the consumer.
This is what genuinely terrifies me. As unemployment keeps rising and millions of us are fighting over fewer jobs, all while the economy is horrible, we're handing unprecedented power to these corporations, and they know it. Companies are already using dynamic wage setting, using algorithms and AI to decide what we should be paid. It's algorithm exploitation. Uber pioneered this. Their AI was able to identify which drivers would accept a $3 ride because they're behind on their bills. DoorDash also uses it. CareRev uses it for healthcare workers.
I have been struggling to pay all my bills on time. When I first moved into this apartment 5 years ago, that wasn't an issue at all. I feel ashamed sometimes as a man or as a person that I can't come up with the bills. It's frustrating. I Uber every day right now. It's Wednesday. I drove around from 7 till 11 and made $20.
Yep, that sucks, buddy. That sucks. I could say, there are much better jobs there if you're willing to do some manual labor. But I hate it when people say that because not everybody can do manual labor. Not everybody has the talent to do manual labor that will actually earn you much more money. But yeah, it's tough.
What is stopping Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, or any other company from using this same type of wage setting? They already know our salary. They monitor everything we do on our work computer and phone. Because the reality is Amazon laid off 14,000 workers, yet they're still hiring for engineering, sales, and management. Microsoft laid off over 15,000 this year. They're hiring. Intel laid off roughly 22,000 this year, yet they're still hiring. These corporations...
But that's my point exactly. You don't understand that these hirings and firings are a lot more complicated than what you're trying to say here, that it's just a bunch of evil rich people sitting in a room deciding to fire people. It's just not like that. It's a lot more complicated, and I can tell you this. You don't fire the high performers. When somebody makes you good money, when somebody is really productive, when somebody is really good for the team and good for the company, those people are not let go. It's just, unless the whole company is, I remember once working for a company, and they closed the entire department. So all of us, regardless of your performance, because they decided this department doesn't exist, and then they offered some of us jobs in other departments. Okay, I can get that, but this notion that companies just fire people for no reason, it's just not true, because you're missing the point of how difficult it is to hire new people to replace people you fired if you fire them for the wrong reason. If you fire someone but the position is still required, the work is still required, and you're not careful that understanding if you can replace that person, you can get into really, really difficult situations. So no, I don't agree with you. I don't think that's the reason.
Corporations lay off people only to hire new employees at a lower salary with less equity and a worse benefits package. If they're already trying to replace us with AI, is it really that big of a stretch to think that they wouldn't lower our salaries by roughly 30% because their AI determined that we're willing to accept that salary?
Again, bullshit. Yeah, good for the video, good to make like a big claim, but no, that's just not how those businesses work, because you're forgetting these businesses are days in are ran by humans and HR and managers like me. And it's not the CEO. People think that, the CEO just goes in there and manages everything and makes it. No. When you're working in a company that has 50,000, 1 million people, 100,000, even a company that has 150 people, the CEO cannot manage everything and every decision. So no, companies are ran by other human beings, and most people are good people, and most people are conscious people, and those decisions are not made by some algorithms. And honestly, they never will be. Just the reality of, as long as humans, and I agree with you, if we get to the apocalypse and now we're all managed by AIs, humans are not part of the equation, yes. But as long as humans are part of the equation, not going to happen.
Salary in this economy. They increasingly give us worse salaries, while Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, made $40 million in 2024.
Not related. His salary, what he makes, that's between, and we might agree or disagree, I don't know, high, low, doesn't matter. But that's not the problem. That's not the issue.
His compensation is directly tied to Amazon's stock price. The day Amazon announced 14,000 layoffs, Amazon stock jumped 13%. The day UPS announced 48,000 layoffs, their stock price jumped almost 13% as well.
But again, you're talking about it that day. His evaluation and his bonus is not based on that day, okay? It's based on the quarterly performance. It's based on the yearly performance. It's based on specific KPIs, not if the stock went up one day. The same thing you can tell me if the stock goes down one day, suddenly they take the money from him. That's not how the compensation works.
Wall Street literally rewards human suffering. And some of you may own Amazon stock because actually stock ownership in the US is at a record high. 62% of Americans own stock. But when we dig deeper, we see that the top 10% own 93% of all stocks. They want us to believe that this is about the future and innovation when they're literally just giving us a solution to a problem that they created. They're laying off real human workers today, investing that money into their dream of AI replacing all of us in the future.
Okay. Interesting video. I think the end is a little bit inflammatory and not connected to the truth, at least from what I know and can see. She has some really interesting points, and for me the point is that it is hard to find a job right now, and it is true that if you're not willing to embrace AI as a way to augment your skills, you're kind of screwed. But I think a lot of the stuff she's saying is just not how I've seen it, and I just don't agree with the notion that companies are firing people because they're going to replace them with AI tomorrow morning. Could it happen? Maybe. I don't think anytime soon, but maybe. But I think people just say those things without having the experience of being a real manager and understanding how these layoffs work. And those decisions that she's talking about are just not part of the equation, at least not now. Anyway, interesting video. Hope this helped you. Have a great day.